You ever notice how the people who talk the most about self-awareness are usually the ones who use it as a weapon? Yeah, I'm talking about those folks who drop, "I'm just being self-aware," right before they say something absolutely brutal about someone else. Because here's the thing nobody wants to admit. Self-awareness has become the ultimate excuse, and we've all been guilty of it. Self-awareness used to mean understanding yourself, your flaws, your triggers, your patterns. But somewhere along the way, it turned into something else entirely. It became a shield, a way to justify bad behavior, a ticket to say whatever you want without consequences. And honestly, it's everywhere now. Think about it. Someone cuts you down in a conversation, and when you call them out, they hit you with, "I'm just self-aware enough to be honest." Or they'll say, "I know I'm blunt, but at least I'm self-aware about it," as if that makes it okay. It's like putting a warning label on poison and expecting people to drink it anyway. The worst part is we've started treating self-awareness like a personality trait instead of a practice. We collect insights about ourselves the way we collect followers. We perform our understanding of our own psychology for an audience. And let me tell you where this gets really twisted. People are now using their self-awareness as social proof. They'll announce their flaws in public spaces, not to work on them, but to own them. To brand themselves with them. "I'm a terrible texter" becomes an identity instead of something to improve. "I'm always late" stops being a problem and starts being a quirk. "I have commitment issues" turns into a dating profile highlight. We're literally advertising our dysfunction and calling it growth. And social media made this 10 times worse. Because now you can post a tearful story about your anxiety, get 1,000 likes, and mistake that validation for healing. You can tweet about your toxic traits and watch people celebrate your vulnerability. But here's what nobody's saying. Naming your problems isn't the same as fixing them. Talking about your issues isn't therapy. And being able to describe your red flags doesn't make them green. Real self-awareness is supposed to be uncomfortable. It's supposed to push you to change, not give you permission to stay exactly the same. Think about the last time someone told you, "That's just how I am," after doing something hurtful. That's not self-awareness. That's resignation dressed up in psychological language. Because genuine self-awareness comes with responsibility. If you truly understand your patterns, you have to do something about them. You can't just point at them and shrug. But we've created this culture where awareness without action is celebrated. Where knowing you're the problem somehow makes you less of the problem. It doesn't. And you know what's really messed up? We've turned self-awareness into a competition. People are out here trying to be the most insightful about their own damage. Like it's a race to see who can psychoanalyze themselves the fastest, who can use the most therapy terms, who can explain their childhood trauma with the most clinical precision. I've seen people use words like attachment style and trauma response in casual conversation like they're collecting Pokemon cards. Gotta catch all the diagnoses. And look, understanding psychological concepts is good, but when you're using them to avoid accountability, that's when it becomes a problem. Someone will hurt you and then explain the exact psychological mechanism behind why they did it. As if their detailed understanding of their own cruelty should make you feel better about being on the receiving end of it. "I have an avoidant attachment style, so that's why I ghosted you after 3 months. Okay, but you still ghosted someone. The label doesn't erase the impact. Here's where it gets even darker. Self-awareness has become transactional. People share their deepest insights not for growth, but for status, for clout, for the appearance of being evolved. It's performance art, and we're all buying tickets. You see it in corporate spaces too. Someone will say, "I know my communication style can be aggressive in a meeting," and suddenly they've inoculated themselves against criticism. They've beaten you to the punch. Now, if you have a problem with how they spoke to you, you're the one being unreasonable. Because they already admitted it, right? They're self-aware. What more do you want? This is manipulation disguised as introspection, and we've all done it. We've all pre-apologized for something we had no intention of changing. We've all confessed our flaws as a way to control how people see them. It's strategic vulnerability, and it's exhausting. Because real vulnerability isn't strategic. Real self-awareness doesn't come with a press release. It happens in private moments when you realize something about yourself that nobody else sees. It's the stuff you don't post. The patterns you notice in the shower, the habits you're ashamed of, the ways you've hurt people that keep you up at night. That's the work. And it's not pretty, it's not shareable, it doesn't get likes, but here's the thing that really gets me. We're so busy performing self-awareness that we've stopped actually developing it. We're so focused on appearing insightful that we've lost the ability to sit with uncomfortable truths about ourselves. True self-awareness requires silence, reflection, honesty that doesn't have an audience. It means looking at the parts of yourself you don't want to see, the ones you can't dress up with psychological terms, the ugly stuff that doesn't fit into a neat narrative. And you can't do that if you're constantly narrating your inner world for public consumption. Social media has convinced us that if we don't share our growth, it doesn't count. That if we don't document our healing journey, we're not really healing. But some of the most profound changes happen in the dark, in private, in moments you'll never post about. And honestly, those are usually the ones that matter most. Because when self-awareness becomes social currency, it stops serving its actual purpose. It stops being about understanding yourself and starts being about managing how others perceive you. You're not learning, you're branding. And the scariest part is how good we've gotten at this. We can sound incredibly self-aware while being completely disconnected from ourselves. We can recite our therapist's insights like we came up with them. We can perform emotional intelligence without actually feeling anything. It's like knowing all the words to a song in a language you don't speak. I see this all the time in relationships. Someone will say, I know I have trust issues because of my past, and then use that as an excuse to never trust anyone. They've diagnosed the problem, but refuse the cure. Or they'll say, I'm aware I self-sabotage, right before they blow up something good in their life. The awareness doesn't stop the sabotage. It just gives them something to talk about afterward. And we accept this. We've normalized this half version of self-awareness, where people can narrate their own destruction without ever changing course. It's like watching someone walk toward a cliff while giving a detailed explanation of why they're walking toward a cliff. And we're supposed to applaud the explanation. Here's what I think happened. We took something genuinely valuable, something that requires effort and humility, and we fast-tracked it. We wanted the benefits without the work, the status without the struggle. So we created this shortcut version, this performance of insight that looks real enough to fool everyone, including ourselves. And now we're stuck in this weird place where everyone claims to be self-aware, but nobody's actually changing. We're all just really good at explaining why we are the way we are. But explanation isn't transformation. Understanding your patterns isn't the same as breaking them. And talking about your growth isn't growing. Real self-awareness is quiet, it's private, it's the realization that hits you when nobody's watching. It's the choice to do better that nobody will ever know about. It's not a badge you wear, it's a mirror you look into when you're alone. And maybe that's the test. If you can't talk about it, if you can't post it, if nobody will ever know, would you still do the work? Because that's where real change lives, in the unsexy, unshared, unvalidated moments where you choose differently. Not because it makes you look good, but because you genuinely want to be better. And look, I get it. We live in a world that rewards performance, that celebrates the appearance of growth over actual growth. That gives us dopamine hits for sharing our struggles. It's hard to resist that. It's hard to do the real work when the fake work gets so much attention. But maybe that's exactly why we need to. Maybe the most radical act of self-awareness right now is keeping it to yourself. Doing the work without the audience. Changing without the announcement. Because at the end of the day, self-awareness isn't about what other people know about you. It's about what you're willing to face about yourself when nobody's looking. And that version, the real version, doesn't need an audience, Eden. It just needs you to be honest, to be willing, to be brave enough to see yourself clearly and do something about what you see. No performance, no validation, no social currency, just you and the truth and what you choose to do with it. That's the self-awareness that actually matters. If this hit different, there's more where this came from.